This might be the year the Denver Broncos completely change the narrative surrounding their offensive woes, because they just got some game-changing news before training camp based off of one analytics website. Welcome in, Broncos country, to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and on today's episode, you know what we're going to be deep diving into: the Broncos' efficiency on offense. Specifically, in the two areas the Broncos massively struggled with last year, which was the run game and the tight end room. So let's start with the most glaring and obvious one out of all of them, which was the rushing efficiency. It was way worse than we thought. So much so that I've got some numbers that will absolutely shock you surrounding one Broncos running back that is no longer on the team, Javonte Williams. Now, before I get into that, I wanted to kind of give you guys a nice little breakdown of exactly what we're looking for when it comes to asking you guys to subscribe. I realize there's a large amount of you that believe it gets annoying that we kind of ask you guys to subscribe to the channel, but here's why. When you have teams like the Raiders Report, who have made basically triple the videos that we have and have way more subs than we have, but we also see that in certain months like we do in July, where the Broncos take advantage of beating the Raiders, we clearly believe that we are on the upward trajectory, for this channel. So when you guys hit that subscribe button, it not only helps me out, which I greatly appreciate, but it also makes sure that all of the best Broncos content is found right here in the Broncos Breakdown family. So if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Let's talk about football, because that's what you guys came here to see. Let's go back to 2024. Rewind. This is really bad. Like, really, really bad. So Jaleel McLaughlin, who is currently the only one out of the running backs that I believe can offer really any value, at least right now, had 500 basically rushing yards, and Javonte Williams was not much higher than he was. Now, Javonte last year was obviously RB1. There's a reason the Broncos got rid of him. He was bad last year. And I don't mean bad like, oh, he had a down year. No, he was awful. And I've got some statistics that I want to run by you that prove just how much he hurt the Broncos running back room. These are Javonte Williams' advanced stats from Sharp Analytics last year. Just take a look at this. He was 46th out of 46 in running backs' yards after contact per rush. 44th out of 46 running backs in longest rushes. 42nd out of 46 in yards per carry, 39th out of 46 in fumbles per rush, and 33 out of 46 in running backs stuff rate. Meaning, every time he touched the ball, he was basically a non-factor. So the Broncos, just by losing Javonte Williams, gained by subtracting. Now, that's not to say that he's a bad person, and I realize that, when he came to Denver, he was a fan favorite. But last year, my friends, I'm calling a spade a spade. He sucked. He was awful. So it was clearly something the Broncos had to go out and fix by not only adding in the draft, but also in free agency with J.K. Dobbins. So RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins are clearly the two best additions to this Broncos offense. Without a doubt. But that still leaves room for improvement in 2025. So who is going to be the one out of those two that really takes the Broncos' rushing attack to the next level? It's RJ Harvey. We know what J.K. Dobbins is. He's a very productive RB1 when he's on the field. But RJ Harvey is still unproven. RJ Harvey plays the modern style of halfback that you're looking for. The 2025 version of what running back is. And there's a lot of analysts out there that believe that RJ Harvey is going to be the best addition to this Broncos offense. It's not going to be Pat Bryant. It's not going to be the major step from Devon Vele or Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin. It is going to be RJ Harvey. And he is one of one in one specific area. Did you know that Harvey was number one in Division I college football last year in yards per carry on outside runs? Meaning, when he's not going through the A gap and he's not going through the B gap, when he bounces outside out of the right tackle or the left tackle, he was number one in college football in yards per carry, 8.2 yards per carry. That's pretty incredible. And if I go back to last year with the rushing outlook that the Broncos had, now keep in mind that this is a lot of words on your screen. But essentially what this is it took Javonte, Jaleel, Bo, and Audric Estime, the 4 leading rushers last year for the Broncos. And it kind of broke down in an advanced analytic where they ranked amongst rushers. Bo Nix is a quarterback, so it doesn't necessarily count. But he did rush, quite a few times. These are terrible numbers. Maybe not from Bo, but Javonte, Jaleel, and Audric Estime did not offer any success. Their success rate was below 40%, and Javonte, who was the number 1 running back last year on the depth chart, was a 35% success rush rate. That's awful. Saquon Barkley's is above 78%. Now, you don't need to be Saquon because he's the best in the league. But you can't be half or less than half of that. Here's another one. Some more rushing efficiency. You could throw that back up on screen there, producer Dylan. I was just kind of digressing a little bit. That's my fault. If we go back to take a look at this chart that I printed out for you guys, this is all from Sharp Analytics, by the way. Let's just take a look at the rushing efficiency by direction. So they went even further, and they broke this down for you. And they said, here's the success rate that the Broncos rushing attack had when they ran to the left, middle, the middle, and then right end. Clearly, their most efficient run was in through the B gap in that right tackle spot. But there's a lot of red on this chart. In fact, running to the left was brutal. Running in the middle was brutal. So clearly, when you're just trying to gain chunk plays up the middle, bolstering through on third, second, whatever, and short, the Broncos had a tough time moving the football. And that translated over to the red zone. They were 13th in third down conversion percentage in the red zone. That's a pretty good statistic. But their EPA per rush in the red zone was 19th. So what does that tell you? All their success that they're having is coming through the air. So they couldn't run the ball in the red zone last year. Javonte, Jaleel, Audric, they all had problems. And if the defense knows that you can't run the football in the red zone and they start playing pass protection, they blitz heavy when they get down into the red zone, we're dealing with tough stuff. Guys, it's not a good statistic. That should change with J.K. Dobbins and RJ Harvey. That's the good news, is that there is no longer that element of predictability in the Broncos' red zone attack. You can now switch up. You can run the ball more effectively. You can pass the ball more effectively. You can get the play action designed more effectively. It's just basic science. I don't make up the stats. I just deliver them to you. Will the Broncos have a top 10 offense in 2025? Yes or no? I want to say yes. I really, really do. Right now, I think they're hovering right between like 10 and 13. So I'm going to say they do. But right now, there needs to be that little extra something, that little extra sauce that takes them over the top. I don't know which player is going to do that. Hopefully, it's RJ Harvey. Coming up, I want to talk about another interesting offensive metric. Something that I believe in the tight end room, the Broncos got even better news regarding. And it has to do a little bit with Evan Engram. Now, before we get into that, my friends, this Broncos t-shirt it's not really a t-shirt, it's a long sleeve, is completely customizable. In fact, it's got a very, very cool fabric. It conforms really well to your body type. And, by the way, summer ain't going to last forever. So once we start getting into the colder months, you're going to really want something that is not only stylish, but also comfortable. And this is where this comes in. Go to chatsports.com/longsleeve. It might be a little bit pricier, but it is customizable. So you can get your name and your favorite number, or your favorite player's name and their number on this Chat Sports long sleeve tee. You can use the link that I put in the comments and description of today's video, or like I said, go to chatsports.com/longsleeve. Okay, let's talk about the 2024 target breakdown for the Broncos. This is in the passing game. So we're not talking about the running game anymore, at least not yet. The wide receiver targets was 60%, which is fine because that's the majority, right? You're most likely throwing to your wide receivers. That's not the problem that I had. But take a look at the next number below. The tight end target percentage was 14%, while the running back target was 22%, meaning Bo Nix had to check down the ball a lot further because the tight ends aren't getting open. 14% of the targets is egregious. That is beyond terrible. Consider who Patrick Mahomes, I know we don't like to use his name, but consider Patrick Mahomes' number one target. It's Travis Kelce. Do you think for a second that if the Chiefs saw that number on their roster, they wouldn't do everything they could to address it? It'd be the first thing that they addressed. And last year, in 2024, the Broncos tight end room, I'm sorry to say, was one of the worst in the NFL, if not the worst. It was brutal. It was awful. But that's why you went out and got a guy like Evan Engram. Somebody that you could target over the middle of the field. Somebody who will get a high volume of targets and receptions. Last year, got injured. Didn't see the bulk of what he usually gets, but he still got 47 receptions in 9 games played. That was more than Troutman, Kroll, everybody in the Broncos tight end room last year. But this also affected Bo Nix. And if you don't believe me, they ranked 29th in early down efficiency last year. Now, what does that mean? Well, in first and second down, the Broncos had a really tough time moving the football through the air. Why? Because Bo didn't have a safety blanket. He had Cortland Sutton, who's his number one target. But what happens when he gets double-teamed? What happens when he goes up against the likes of a Derek Stingley? What happens when he goes up against Sauce Gardner? Those guys can play. They'll lock you down. You need a safety blanket over the middle of the field, somebody that can highlight play action for you, that will get open so that you can get the ball out into the flat or over the middle of the field. It doesn't have to be for 15 yards. But you need someone that you can throw a 7-yard stick route to. And that's where tight ends come into play. That's where Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have made their bread and butter. Where Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews have succeeded so well. It's their ability to find openings over the middle of the field and gradually move the football. Evan Engram doesn't need to be the guy that stretches the field. We've got speedsters that can do that. Marvin Mims can do that. Cortland Sutton's great on the deep ball. I don't need Evan Engram to run go routes. I don't need him to run skinny posts. Run a stick route for 8 yards. Catch the ball, go down, 2nd and 2, power it up the gut with J.K. Dobbins, move the chains. That is how you methodically win football games in 2025. You don't need home runs every play. But if you hit 5 singles and then the next time you get up, you swing for the fences, odds are you're probably going to connect and it's going to go over the feet or over the fence. I realize that's a baseball analogy, but you get my point. 2025 football doesn't necessarily have to be all fireworks. It can be methodical. It can be relaxed. It can be planned out. And if the Broncos prioritize making sure that Bo has the options to go on earlier downs and get that number from 29th in the league up to about 15th or 14th on early downs, you're going to see far more success and a far more wearing down of opposing defenses in 2025. So go ahead and name a Broncos player that you believe is in for a breakout year. I'll say it right now. I think it's Evan Engram. I think Evan Engram is going to be one of the best additions the Broncos have seen in quite some time, especially as a weapon on offense. But let me know in the comment section down below. That is going to do it for us on today's episode. Reminder to subscribe, like the video if you haven't, and as always, be cool.